set my bow in the clouds as a sign of my love for you, as a sign of my promise to all the earth, visible where gray sky meets blue. I will offer pardon to all as a sign of my love for you. When the vow has been broken and trust destroyed, I will offer pardon to you. I will write my law in your heart as a sign of my love for you. Love compels us to follow the Christ, my child, covenant restored and renewed.
Good morning. It's so good to be in worship with you this morning. You know, we've been doing some emojis the last few weeks. So this week's emoji is this one, which is kind of, I'm embarrassed. I can't believe I just said that. And the stories today kind of go along with that. Now, we all know or have learned and maybe forgotten about Moses bringing the Israelites out of Egypt. And they wandered for 40 years in the desert. And you know, they kind of complained a little bit. And I confess that I've complained more than once in my life. In fact, more than once today. And they were complaining because they were wandering and they didn't like what they were eating. And they're like, so why did you bring us here? And we don't have any bread, we don't have any water, and we don't like the food. And so the Lord sent, okay, this would have made me stop complaining. He sent snakes, not just any snakes. He sent poisonous snakes. And people were getting bit and dying. So then they turned to Moses and said, can't you get God to stop this? And so God, being God and being good to us, he did. He had Moses make a staff and put a bronze snake on it. And if people got bit by a snake, they could look up at the bronze snake and they'd be healed. And, you know, we all have those days. And maybe some of you have seen this book and read this book, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. So I thought we'd read this today and see what happens to him on his very bad, horrible, no good, very bad day. So it starts, and he gets up in the morning. I went to sleep with gum in my mouth, and now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I tripped on the skateboard, and by mistake, I dropped my sweater in the sink when the water was running, and I could tell it was gonna be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At breakfast, Anthony found a Corvette Stingray car kit in his breakfast cereal box, and Nick found a junior undercover agent code ring in his breakfast cereal box. But in my breakfast cereal box, all I found was breakfast cereal. I think I'll move to Australia. And in the carpool, Mrs. Gibson let Becky have a seat by the window. Audrey and Elliot got seats by the window too. I said I was being scrunched. I said I was being smushed. I said, if I don't get a seat by the window, I'm going to be car sick. And no one even answered. I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. At school, Mrs. Dickens liked Paul's picture of the sailboat better than my picture of the invisible castle. At singing time, she said I sang too loud. At counting time, she said I left out 16. I mean, who needs 16? I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I could tell because Paul said I wasn't his best friend anymore. He said that Philip Parker was his best friend, and that Albert Moyo was his next best friend, and that I was only his third best friend. I hope you sit on a tack, I said to Paul. I hope the next time you get a double-decker strawberry ice cream cone, the ice cream part falls off and the cone part and lands in Australia. There were 2 cupcakes in Philip Parker's lunch bag, And Albert got a Hershey bar with almonds, and Paul's mother gave him a piece of jelly roll that had little coconut sprinkles on the top. Guess whose mother forgot to put in dessert? It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. That's what it was, because after school, my mom took us all to the dentist, and Dr. Fields found a cavity just in me. Come back next week and I'll fix it, said Dr. Fields. Next week, I said, I'm going to Australia. On the way downstairs, the elevator door closed on my foot, and while we were waiting for my mom to go get the car, Anthony made me fall where it was muddy, and then I started crying because of the mud. Nick said I was a crybaby. And while I was punching Nick for saying crybaby, my mom came back with the car and scolded me for being muddy and fighting. I am having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I told everyone. No one even answered. So then we went to the shoe store to buy some sneakers. Anthony chose white ones with blue stripes. And Nick chose red ones with white stripes. I chose blue ones with red stripes. But then the shoe man said, we're all sold out. They made me buy plain old white ones, but they can't make me wear them. When we picked up my dad at his office, he said I couldn't play with his copying machine, but I forgot. He also said to watch out for the books on his desk, and I was careful as could be, except for my elbow. He also said, don't fool around with his phone, but I think I called Australia. My dad said, please, don't pick him up anymore. It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. There were lima beans for dinner, and I hate limas. There was kissing on TV, and I hate kissing. My bath was too hot, I got soap in my eyes, my marble went down the drain, and I had to wear my railroad pajamas. I hate my railroad pajamas. When I went to bed, Nick took back the pillow he said I could keep, and the Mickey Mouse nightlight burned out, and I bit my tongue. The cat wants to sleep with Anthony, not with me. It has been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. My mom says, some days are just like that, even in Australia. So I thought about this book, and we can learn some things from him, because he did have kind of an unpleasant day. But we're all going to face unpleasantness. And what God taught us in the story about Moses and his people wandering in the desert is if we look to God, he can help us get over our bad days. He can give us the strength to get through when bad things happen to us, even when absolutely everything seems to go wrong. Alexander still had some pretty good things in his life. He had his mom who loved him and reminded him that some days you just have bad days. So if you start complaining, and I've done this, when I complain, I kind of get a little embarrassed and ashamed that I did it. We need to remember that we should turn to God and ask for strength to get through the things that are making us unhappy and to give us the strength to face those trials in our life. He offers us grace. Grace is when you love people even when they don't deserve it. God continues to love us, to care for us, and forgive us even when we really don't deserve it, like the people in Israel who complained about everything that happened to them. And then when they got snakes, they turned to God to ask him to fix it. So today, as we continue to worship, listen for the words that remind us of the grace that God offers us in the songs we sing and in the prayers we say. And listen to one big example of how grace that involved lots of snakes. The Israelites experienced a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, but God got them through it. So we should keep focus, we should look up and live, and remember how contagious that sort of thing is. Look up, and everyone else wants to look up with you. What a witness. The main thing is to keep the main thing, the main thing. So we're going to end in a prayer, and at the end I'll say, and all the people said, and I want you to say amen with me out loud as you can. Loving and gracious God, we are thankful for the grace that you offer us daily, even when it seems to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Remind us of your presence and love, and help us to always keep looking up to you for strength. And all the people said, amen. thanks for coming to worship with us today, and you have a really good week, and we'll see you next week.